So I am not satisfied by my faith. I am not satisfied with our tradition. And I am not satisfied by Unitarian Universalism. Something is missing. It's true that dissatisfaction, as we read in the reading, indeed might be part of our tradition. And you've heard me say that revision is the bedrock of Unitarian Universalism and is not dissatisfaction a cause or a shadow of revision. So that's all well and good. And in fact, I am satisfied with the tradition of dissatisfaction in which we gather. In fact, I'm operating in it right now. It's compelling, it's creative, and it invites evolution. However, dissatisfaction is a prompt. It is not a promise. And while it may be creative, it is not patient enough to discover its own impact. And so dissatisfaction is not whole. And so I am not whole. And we are not whole. Dissatisfaction is compelling, but it can be as empty of spiritual nutrition as dogma is. And it risks carving only rivulets and not rivers, puddles and not pools. It is as we are, a mile wide and an inch deep. And so I am frustrated when I see curious potential congregants show up for several weeks in a row and then disappear. They seem to enjoy the service. They've probably checked us out on YouTube before they even got here. And when they get here, they seem to enjoy your company. But across the age spectrum, 2, 3 weeks, and then poof, we never see them again. Why? I'm frustrated when I see our own congregants yearning for some deep spiritual nectar and looking to this place to provide it, and looking and looking and looking. And now we do have an earnest few who plant their flag and rally some to it. But even then, I suspect it is piecemeal and not comprehensive. Not whole. Risking rivulets when we could have rivers, and bless them. Without them, we may not even have a trickle. On the other hand, I am not frustrated by my role. As a minister, my path is quite comprehensive. This is my life. I have my family, I have Sun Devil football, and Mountain Vista UU. The order is arbitrary. Faith, family, and football. Maybe I'm a Baptist. But because I aspire to integrity, my role as a minister forms me. It's been amazing. It shapes my behavior along ministerial, which is to say, in part spiritual lines. And I am blessed by you that my role invites an engagement of the heart and mind and resources that at times does allow me to dive deep, sometimes in spite of what I would like to be doing. The role is difficult at times, and it can be lonely. Further, while you make this possible for me, it's important to note here that I am not your champion. I am not spiritual on your behalf. I do not recommend vicarious spirituality. It is why I like to remind you that you are all ministers here. Now, I understand that that is difficult to keep in your heart. So while I love my role and am not frustrated by it, I am frustrated that I cannot give to you what you give to me. These three frustrations are evidentiary exhibits revealing a fundamental absence in the heart of our faith tradition. To put it as our critics so often have, there is no there there. There is no center, no ready mechanism or pattern or rhythm for comprehensive spiritual formation. And we often mistake spiritual formation for a curriculum. Spiritual formation is not a curriculum. Now, the irony and possible tragedy is that our greatest strength is also responsible for us having no there. We have no central text. We reject creed and dogma. And this is an amazing thing, a beautiful thing. But it has a consequence, and the consequence is that we have no central theology. And while all of these characteristics open up vistas for us to explore, they also do not give us much in the way of a framework by which we can understand the impact of our exploring. That we have no center is our greatest strength, as well as our greatest weakness. And this diffusion gives us life and energy and is why our survival is anything but assured. Here we are, right now, in many ways, perfectly positioned at this point in history, a point of increasing secularization and yet great religious need. There's all those spiritual but not religious folks out there, and they're growing in number. All those nuns, the people who check the nun box under the religion section on questionnaires. Those are our people. Some of them even check us out. Some stay. Most do not. I think this lack of a there is why visitors come 3 times. Not just once, not just twice. They come multiple times, but they don't stick. They love you, they forgive me, but they don't come back. I believe that people want something to do that clearly calls them into a greater identity. I think people want to fall into something and to grab onto something and recreate themselves and feel the power and beauty and grace of the world that is seen and unseen. But I don't think that we make that available. I'm talking about it as an entire tradition. I don't think that, generally speaking, we make that available. And that not only prevents visitors from adding to our community, it hamstrings you all. It prevents you from deeply engaging that call. What visitors sense is generally true. Unitarian Universalism does not avail itself to those who want both roots and wings, who want something to hold on to ground them while compelling them at the same time spiritually and developing their character. And we advertise and even sing that we do this, but I fear that we fail to deliver to visitors and to you. And yet, despite this absence, we happy few stick around. We believe in the promise of our faith despite its obscurity. And I'm here to tell you and to tell our visitors and to tell all with ears to hear that you are wise for doing so. that you are not wrong for standing by this faith. I'm here to tell you that we do have all the tools necessary to create something to fall into, to grab hold of and recreate ourselves. We have the resources to turn spiritual rivulets into rivers and puddles into ponds. We just don't see the way. We haven't put it together. Beneath our feet are paths of deep spiritual engagement waiting to be trod. It's just that we don't see them. We don't see them. I would like to change that. What's more, I have an idea how. And I'll let you sit with that in music. That I believe that Unitarian Universalists have the resources necessary to develop a faithway that has the potential to make us a mile wide and a mile deep. We already have everything that we need. We do not need a central book. We do not need a dogma or creed. And we do not even need central theology. What we do need is perspective and intent. What we do need is reorientation and recognition to what it is we frequently already do. And on top of that, what we need is a process. A process. And beyond all that, and before all that, and within all that, what we need is commitment. If you want a deeper way, wishing for it will not bring it about. Stories of the sagacity and spiritual systems and patterns of the Buddha and Jesus and Muhammad and Lao Tzu and Emerson and Henry Miller and Jim Morrison and quantum theory are mere entertainments without commitment. They are moral entertainments, spiritual entertainments, but they are escapist fairy dust, which turns out to be just dust, without commitment. So I do not promise you nirvana, and I do not promise you heaven, but I have faith in progress when process and commitment coexist. Commitment to what? Or what if you are already committed? I'm a meditator, a scripture reader, a steward captain. I sit on 3 other committees, and I'm on the board for the 4th time in 2 years. I am commitment. And here I am burning out because I do all that, and yet I feel no path. And I get it. I understand that. And that's where intent and the lens and process comes in, and this produces comprehensiveness and connectedness and reorientation and recognition and all that. I'll get to it in a minute. I think that we UUs have a path, we just haven't seen it. We haven't recognized it as a path. We haven't offered it to ourselves, and we haven't offered it to all those hungry people out there. But I think it's there, and I want to tell you about it. Commitment is the backbone of this path. As I said last week, nothing that ever amounted to anything ever happened without commitment. And so for this program, not a curriculum, for this program, I have anchored its name to that idea which was so catchingly employed in our beloved hymn, The Fire of Commitment. Commitment as fire. And we're looking for a path to walk, a path that was always there but obscure and unseen, so a path needing the fire of commitment to illuminate it. So I have called the program Firewalkers. The added bonus is that it sort of recalls Skywalker. So Jedi's very cool. Now, we're not going to play Jedi, okay? Sorry. That's for Tom during the stewardship campaign. That was a joke, and Firewalkers is actually serious. It's quite real, and it's open to you. It's open to everyone. The path of a firewalker is forged by a set of commitments intended to create a coherent spiritual discipline, a comprehensive spiritual discipline. It is open to all, but it is a discipline, and it is meant to be demanding because it is also meant to be rewarding, transformative, refreshing, and sustaining. So this is the path, and you could look at the cover of your order of service if you want to now. There are 5 commitments that comprise the discipline, and if you look at the cover of your order of service, you'll see them. Co-creation, practice, participation, stewardship, and service. There are 5 of them, so an easy way to remember them is on your fingers. And so then, I'm in my lonely office, and I'm writing this sermon, and I'm looking at my fingers, and a motto pops into my head. Open hand, 5 fingers, open hand, full heart. The open hand, 5 commitments, leads to the full heart. So Islam has 4 pillars. We now have 5 fingers. We have more. Open hand, full heart. Another mnemonic is the acronym that the 5 fingers create, CPPSS, which we can pronounce with a fair bit of license as cups. And so I offer you an open hand, cups, co-creation, practice, participation, stewardship, and service. If you want to be an open-handed, full-hearted firewalker, you commit to co-creation, which means you and I will meet once, at least, to discuss your spiritual life and chart the near future, including selecting a spiritual practice. And crucially, we will also meet as a group of firewalkers, either monthly or quarterly, to hold each other in care and accountability, and to reflect on and share experiences of this path. This is the process part. This is the part that ties it all together, and it's extremely important. If you want to be an open-handed, full-hearted firewalker, you commit to practice. You commit to that spiritual practice, which you and I will discuss. It's a practice that goes beyond Sunday services. It could be meditation, writing, painting, journaling, walking, tarot, prayer, what have you. You commit to it, though. And if you want to be an open-handed, full-hearted firewalker, you commit to participation. You regularly participate in the choir or a Finding Heart group, spiritual poetry group, reading group, adult religious education. That participation is an avenue for the exercise of this path. If you want to be an open-handed, full-hearted firewalker, you commit to stewardship. Now this is with the assistance of the latest UUA guidelines. Take those, you consider the meaning of your finances. UUA giving guidelines are based on percentage of income and takes specific life events and passages and circumstances into account. The guidelines are divided into categories of supporter, sustainer, visionary, and on up. In the first year, I'd like you to commit to being at least a supporter with a plan to get to visionary in 4 to 5 years. And this could be done in consultation with me or not, and it always relies on the honor system. If you cannot afford to give anything, we will find another method. You see, this is not primarily about getting money into the coffers of the church. I give to this church. I give because this place and this way are important, and so my giving is not related to the performance of the board or the worship associates or the RE committee or the behavior of you all. In excellence or difficulty, I give because it is important for this place to be here, and it's a sacrifice that reminds me and orients me to what this place stands for. So that stewardship piece is for you to have that commitment remind you. It needs to be dear enough that you come up against it and sacrifice a bit for it so that it says, No, turn back to your principles. Turn back to this path. If you want to be an open-handed, full-hearted firewalker, you commit to service. Either here you volunteer on a committee, or you facilitate a curriculum, or beyond our walls, you volunteer as a partner at a partner organization with a willingness to share that experience with the rest of us. So that's service. That's the firewalker path. 5 fingers, cups, 1 hand, open hand, full heart. All these things that we already have, that we already do. And some of you are saying, I kind of do all this stuff already. I still don't feel this thing. Well, you don't do the process, and you haven't met with me. And these things, I fear, they isolated from a whole, I think they dangle and are spiritually inert. Or at least not as formative, and they risk burnout and shallow waters. So if we connect them, if we orient ourselves to them for a specific purpose, if we see them as a whole and reflect on that whole together, then we have a comprehensive process. This is a positive claim in the mode of the great spiritual traditions that still adheres to our principles and understandings within our tradition. And I hope it offers you and all who come through our doors and all who you meet a true spiritual path to hold on to and by which you can be held. Do you have to do this to be a member of MVUU? Of course not. It is purely elective, like anything else in this congregation. And if you are already fried and burnt out, I hope this is refreshing because it is rewarding. And you may already do most of these 5 disciplines. Again, you should do what you feel called to do. And I see this as an opportunity for you to engage with the congregation and your spiritual life as an integrated whole. It's about integration. Or to riff off the story we told earlier, we're trying to illuminate the whole elephant here. We're trying to get our sight back. Do you need to be a member of the congregation to participate? No. You need only participate to participate. 5 fingers, full heart. How do I get started? Make an appointment. We could begin at any time, tomorrow, a month from now. The path is before us. And I say yes to revision. However, let us respond to dissatisfaction with gratitude, with gracefulness, and with love. The path is before us, and it will light up with your commitment. It will form you with its discipline and its process. The hope is that it expands your identity. That it does build a house for the Spirit to reside in and grow in, so that you feel the power and the beauty and the grace of the seen and the unseen. And I invite each of you and all of you to walk with me and walk with each other, the fire of commitment and in the light of grace revealed there. Let us walk together. As we extinguish the flame of this chalice, we also ignite the flame within, that fire of commitment, the light of God, to walk in that light, to be called and cared for by that light. Let us take the chalice into our hearts, to welcome, care for, and inspire, and walk in the fire of commitment. With open hands and full hearts, we will go in peace and go singing. Please rise in body or spirit. We'll sing 1030.